Welcome back to the James McGee Show. I am your host. I am James McGee. If you were joining us live on video, or if you're watching later on video, you will notice that we have a new background. And if you're listening, you will notice that we have new audio. We are taking the show to another level. Got a new mixer, new microphone, new background. 2026 is going to be our year. So let's dive into what we have planned for today. So we hear, a phrase in the last couple years, and it's proven to be, especially in politics, gaslighting. So what is gaslighting? The official definition is the practice of psychologically manipulating someone into questioning their own sanity, memory, or powers of reasoning. Here's some examples of gaslighting. Gaslighting involves denying reality, questioning your sanity, shifting blame, such as saying, I never said that. You're too sensitive. You're making things up, to make you doubt your memory or your feelings. Ultimately, gaining control by making you feel confused, anxious, and dependent. Common phrases include dismissing your concerns as just a joke, blaming you for their bad behavior, and claiming everyone agrees with them. So, this is what politicians are doing to us. This is what they do as part of their political strategy. And what they rely on in political strategy is what I call voter amnesia. What is voter amnesia? Well, they rely on voters forgetting. They rely on you forgetting promises made and promises broken. Forgetting what they've done or they didn't do. That's what politicians continuously do to us. You know, I've heard this so many times throughout my political career. Good morning, Tyler. Uh, in their words, what they're relying on is your amnesia, but in their words, they are relying on your stupidity. Politicians think very lowly of you. And the reason why they think very low of the average voter is because they are able to gaslight you. They are able to lie to you. They are able to get you to forget things. That's their game. Their game is not to govern. Their game is not to manage. Their game is not to make this nation or your local community or whatever entity, and I'm talking about every level, from the school board to the Congress to the presidency. Their game is to to gain and then keep power. These narcissistic pieces of shit, they think you're stupid. And I've been in rooms where we know voters are stupid. We can make them believe everything. And they laugh at you behind your back and they bank. They bank on your stupidity. They do not care about you. They only care about your vote. But look, here's the thing. You're not stupid. The issue is you have personal lives to deal with. You elect these people for the reason of representing you. They're supposed to represent you. You elect them for that. You're not stupid. You are, the system is created for you to elect a representative and for you to do what your job is, to raise your family, to do the things that you're supposed to do, because you elect people to take care of all that other stuff, right? Well, they're not. In fact, they don't represent us. They represent special interests and they represent themselves. They represent their reelection bid, period. So, what I want to first break down is explain how this thing goes, how this thing is, how politicians view their term. They section it off into 3 months, 6 month, 1 year sections to strategically do things that they want you to forget and they want you to remember. So I'm gonna give you some examples. Say you got a newly elected or reelected mayor. At the beginning of his term, he's going to go in and he's going to fire a bunch of people, or he's going to implement things that are going to be very unpopular. So what their philosophy is on this is people forget. By the time reelection comes around, they would have forgotten. We're going to make them forget. We're going to make them forget the unpopular or the bad things that we did. So we're going to go in right in the first 3 months, we're going to do this. It's not about making things better. It's about their agenda. Maybe it is making things better, but it's strategically of when they're going to do these things. In 6 months, we're going to do this. In the middle, we're going to do some things that really, probably in the middle is when things are really getting done and progress is being made. It's the things that are not either controversial or they're not real sexy. Because what they're going to do the bullshit in the middle, the non-substantial things. Then at the end, when it's re-election time, they're going to do something very popular. They're going to go in there and get them a win. And they're going to cover and make you forget with that win, that big deal. They're going to make you forget what they did in the beginning, the unpopular things that they did, the wrong things that they did, because they are banking on voter amnesia. It's not because they care about you. It's about reelection. It's that cycle. It is a continuous cycle. They do it at the time to secure reelection. And again, they're banking on you of having amnesia and only remembering the new shiny object. They're going to dangle that new shiny object in your face. So how do we counter this? How do we counter the gaslighting? How do we counter voter amnesia? It's real simple. Stop forgetting these things. Stop letting them gaslight you. I'm not talking about short-term memory. I'm talking about long-term. Let's go back to let's play this game. Let's play Remember the Time. Go back to the beginning and remember your struggles. And some of us have to go back pretty far, being my age. I've got to go back, probably 20 years, 20, 30 years. Man, when I struggled. And some of the examples I'm going to give today are things that I've personally went through. But I'm not special. It's the struggle of the everyday man. And that's who is the forgotten about voter, the forgotten about person, they forget the everyday person. Only they don't forget us when it's election time. Then they gaslight us and they bank on us having amnesia. So what I want to do today is I want to remember our hard work. I want to remember the sacrifices that you have made. And then I want you to also, we're going to remind ourselves of what they want you to forget, what they're hoping that you forget, what they're banking on you forgetting, of who is scamming the system. And when we play this game and it really hits you, I bet the amnesia is going to start going away. So I want you to remember that time when you were a young adult just starting out in life on your own. And you had to sleep on a hand-me-down mattress thrown on the floor because you didn't have a frame. You didn't have a box spring. That's what you had. But you were happy to have it. But you had a plastic chair, a TV tray, because you didn't have a proper table. You just had a chair and a TV tray. And your supper that you fixed for yourself was bologna or Spam, because that's what you could afford. But I also want you to remember now, watching persons come in here illegally, being put in 5-star hotels, and eating 3 hot meals a day on your dime. That's what I want you to remember. That's what we need to remember. And that's what these politicians are banking, that you're going to forget. That's what they want you to forget. I want you to remember the time when you wanted to take your kids to Disney World, but it wasn't in the budget. Even though it wasn't in the budget. Good morning, Britt. Disney World wasn't in the budget, even though you and your spouse both work full-time jobs. Even though both of you soaked up every bit of overtime that you can. But then you're scrolling on Facebook and you see someone that you know at Disney World on a 7-day trip who you know is on government assistance because they're scamming the system. I want you to remember when you didn't get the skilled labor job that you were qualified for because the company that you were working for hired an illegal for $5 less an hour. I want you to remember that. For those of you who have started a business, I want you to remember when you started your business and you had to mortgage your house to a second mortgage on a over-leveraged house as it is. You withdrew all of your savings. You maxed out your credit cards to start the business and build the life that you wanted for you and your family. Then you see these Somalians who scammed us out of billions, sent money overseas, funded terrorists with your tax money, $19 billion and counting your tax money. And they're being protected and called victims by politicians. Meanwhile, they're driving BMWs and they're living in mansions. Politicians are hoping you forget about that. I want you to remember when you voted for strong borders and mass deportations. You voted for that. Do you remember that's what you voted for? That's what you wanted? You still want that. But you're being gaslit. Because when the administration you voted to go in and do this, when they started being successful, what happened? The other side started creating chaos and convinced you that they were a problem. Not the person's committing fraud, not the person's committing crime, not the person that came here illegally. They're convincing you that the people that we tasked to do this are the problem, while this side commits insurrection and promotes civil war. I want you to remember that you give 20% of your check to the federal, at least 20% of your check to the federal government. In some states like mine, you give 6% to your state government. then if you own a medium house, you're probably paying $5,000 a year to your state and local entities on property taxes. Then you get taxed 10% in some places, sales tax, on everything that you buy. Gas tax. We don't recognize the taxes that we pay because we really don't see it. Like Dave Ramsey says, if you get your check without any taxes being taken out, and when you're walking out the door after you get your paycheck, the tax man's there with his hand out wanting his 20, 30, 35%, you'd wake up then because we just don't see it. That's how they get us. And they're gaslight. The way they tax us is a form of gaslighting. But then after you pay all your taxes, with the money you have left over, you walk through the grocery store. But you're walking through as a person who has two incomes, working overtime, paying all these taxes. You are the heartbeat of America. You're walking through the grocery store with a calculator to make sure that you have the money in your checking account to cover it. Then you factor in your tax. After you do the calculation, you add 10%. But then you get behind this big, fat, slob, obese person with a buggy full of sodas and chips. And when it's time to pay, they whip out the SNAP card. And they're tax exempt. But you're being gaslit. They want you to forget about that. I also want you to remember, on top of these everyday expenses and all the taxes you have to pay, you still have to live. You know what else you have to do? You have to save for retirement. You have to invest. You have to create a nest egg for you and your family for emergencies. Because Social Security is a joke. Because people are draining. People, illegals, and people who do not deserve it are draining the Social Security system, but they want you to forget that. But I want you to remember when your portfolio took a dive and you lost 50% of your retirement savings. And then you found out during the same time period that you lost 50% of your retirement savings. People like Ilhan Omar, Dan Crenshaw, Nancy Pelosi, and many others, their stock portfolios rose tremendously during that same time period. Some of them 500% because of insider trading. Yeah, I could go on and on about this. But politicians bank on this cycle. Politicians are banking on your amnesia and you not educating yourself on the real issues. They bank on your addiction to catchy ads, one-liners, at the end, lies, to either discredit a person running against them or promote the things they really didn't do because you're being gaslit. They're banking on your amnesia. This will only stop when we say enough is enough. So Mama Luke of the day. Mama Luke of the day is the CBS News organization, if you can call them a news organization. They are now saying that Nick Shirley, the independent journalist with a YouTube channel and a cell phone, who uncovered all this fraud in Minnesota, he is the reason why 2 people are dead in Minnesota. The same CBS News is saying that Don Lemon is a victim. Don Lemon was just a journalist doing his job. Gaslighting at its finest. We have to quit falling for it. See you tomorrow morning, same time, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. Remember, until then, remember, the world does, sorry, I'm backwards. No one is coming to save you, and the world does not give a fuck. Thanks for joining us. McGee is out.